what can users get excited about for BuddyPress 2.5? What are you working on that you think is an exciting feature?
Gosh, I think the one of the things that is exciting for me that I didn't fit into 2.4 is being able to select which profile fields are available on sign up, which is something that we've wanted for a long time. Right now, the registration page that you get with BuddyPress out of the box is we've made the decision to have it be relatively simple, but at the same time, it takes all of the fields from the first group, and you don't have a choice. And to customize that outside of the box requires some custom templates and some code and stuff that not everyone can do. So the ability to edit a profile field, pick which one is available for sign up, is kind of a big deal because now you can pick fields from each group or none, and then have either a very simple registration form or a registration form that requires you to fill out your age or that requires you to fill out some specific field before you can make an account. So that was something we sort of worked on. It required a bunch of random refactoring. We didn't end up fitting some of it in. We did some performance improvements instead in 2.4. And so we are queued up and ready to do that for 2.5. I think we've been playing along with the idea of, like, I don't want to call it like a kill switch, but like a one-off setting to say that to like privatize the entire community. So no activity stream, no friends, no profiles, no anything, with just a like simple, okay, you can sign up, you can do whatever. If there's an avatar on a blogger or something, that's different, but the rest of the community would just be private with just an option in the settings screen. We've talked about that for a long time, and I don't think that there's really any reason to do it anymore, or any reason not to do it. And then I've talked with a few of the authors for popular membership plugins that end up doing a lot of like lockdown on content or paywalls on content or private community type things to find a way to make whatever it is that we put into core flexible enough for their membership plugin solutions to be able to fit nicely with it. So those are the two things that I think will, people will start to look at what BuddyPress can do and how friendly it is a little bit differently.
Okay, awesome.
And maybe some other stuff that is under the hood stuff that we can talk about later.
All right. Can we talk about your Stutter project? As I understand it, it's a group of experiments dedicated to rethinking WordPress from the outside in. There are also quite a few social components in there. Are you building software that could someday supersede BuddyPress?
I don't think so. I think the past year of really focusing and kind of hunkering down and concentrating on what BuddyPress is and how people use it, what it means to people, is kind of clarified a few different things for me that. So Stutter specifically, yes, there's like some social elements to it, but the plugins that Stutter ends up being made of are very purposefully WordPress plugins. They are individual atomic units to improve something specific inside of WordPress, where BuddyPress ends up really being like the pro version of all of that. It is the entire package for bigger, larger communities that need that. And Stutter ends up being, okay, let's take maybe some things that are in BuddyPress that are part of the big package, and let's rethink how they might look or feel. One, if they weren't part of BuddyPress, part of a much larger project, and two, how would they fit the best into WordPress? Not necessarily into a theme or into a social network or into a community, but just how does this feature just improve something with WordPress? And I think most of them are going to rotate around users or profiles or just the user experience of what your profile looks like or editing users looks like or creating new users looks like. But at the same time, there are lots of little tweaks that an average user might want to do that has nothing really to do with social stuff like term colors, term images, that kind of thing. So the user activity for Stutter ends up being more about aggregating activity, less about posting activity stream items. But there could easily be another plugin for status updates that might happen to just tie in very closely to what Activity Streams does. So it's really just attacking the idea of all of the big features of BuddyPress in a smaller way that developers can interact with in a more convenient, easy-to-use way, posts and taxonomies and metadata versus the big monolithic solutions that BuddyPress tends to be.
Okay, because I think when folks look at Stutter and they see those social components, they start to wonder, what is your commitment to BuddyPress?
Oh.
How much longer do you think you'll be able to deliver leadership for the project?
Oh, that's interesting. So, with BuddyPress and BBPress specifically, like my Indiegogo campaign and being able to really concentrate on working on them, I guess I learned like two things. One, that there is just an infinite amount of things that everyone would like to do and that I would specifically like to do for BuddyPress specifically, but also that it's going to take a long time to achieve most of those things. And I was kind of reminded of what like Matt stepping away for a while, or at least letting other influences be bigger than his, and WordPress did for WordPress as a project. So I've largely influenced the direction for BuddyPress for the past 5 years or so, and I would like to continue to do so, but I don't want it to necessarily be that I'm the only influence or necessarily even the biggest one, because there are other people that are using it in other ways that the project needs to be able to grow, and for that to happen, it needs to happen outside of me. So the part of the leadership aspect of the past 6 months to probably 9 months has been making sure that Boone and Paul and iMath and Hugo and Mercy and other contributors to BuddyPress are comfortable with influencing things without me necessarily needing to be the person that checks the box and says, yeah, it's totally fine. Stephen Edgar with BBPress also, huge influence in build tools and UI and some under the hood performance stuff with the converter and everything else. He no longer needs to try and ask me for any decision-making thing to happen. He is comfortable and confident doing all those things on his own. So the past year of time has been nice to hang out and buddy up and get people comfortable and familiar with everything, not just the code base, but with their relationship with the project, so that I don't need to be the only one that's there anymore. So the projects themselves are also, they both have a funny reputation of like people coming and going, of people not necessarily understanding like where the direction of the project is going to go, and it's largely related to like a non-committed leadership. It's related to Andy Peatling going and not really concentrating on it, Matt and Mike Adams, Sam Bowers, myself, BBPress, like large swaths of time where no one is really steering the ship. So it's natural. I think that's going to happen. But me experimenting with other stuff with Stutter, I don't think is going to ever translate to me spending less time on BuddyPress or BBPress. I think it would more, it's like a side project. It's like, an artist switching from oil to color paint. You try something else to see what's over there, and then bring what you've learned back in a better and hopefully even more effective way.
Okay, awesome. So lastly, lately in the WordPress community, folks have been having a desire for more transparency from WordPress core leadership to see what's the vision for the future, what can we expect, what are the priorities. As far as BuddyPress goes, what would you like to see for the next year or two, or even beyond that? Do you have a vision for where you'd like to take it?
I do, I think. But I think that vision is historically for BuddyPress, not so much for BBPress. BBPress, I think, is pretty obvious. BBPress is a forum. What that means in terms of feature set may sometimes be in flux. Perform moderators will probably move forums over to taxonomies. There's some things that will be largely under the hood performance architectural things that will be neat for BBPress. But I talked with Peatling about this today. Andy Peatling, the founding developer for BuddyPress, because he's here at WordCamp US, and And in my experience, and I think the experience of other people that I've talked to, the, one of the conclusions that I have is that WordPress uh, WordPress has a funny reputation for like the blogging software thing, and for being a CMS or being an application frame. People call it a bunch of different things. I think the majority of people knowing what the foundation of WordPress is helps it in a funny psychological way. You know it's blogging software, so you know what you're starting with. Whether or not you can turn that into CNN or the New York Times, it's up to you, but you know what you're starting with. And I don't know that BuddyPress has that. I don't think BuddyPress has I know what I'm getting with this, and I know where I'm going with it. Instead, I think BuddyPress as a project has identity crisis. It has a little bit of it doesn't know what exactly it's supposed to be to the people that are using it, and so defining what BuddyPress's identity is, or what problems that it's truly trying to solve, is what it needs. Because if it's an intranet, if it's powering alumni networks, if it's doing any of these things, we really should find or try to clearly define what the thing is that it's doing and call it that thing, at least for a while. Because until that happens, it's going to float, I think, along without a clear definition of what exactly it is it's trying to do.
So social networking in a box as a tagline is pretty broad.
I think so. I think social networks have enough negative connotation the same way that like blogging has like this funny negative connotation. With WordPress being primarily blogging software, that even though blogging has like a funny reputation of, I don't know, grandstanding or whatever it is that the outside world is going to consider blogging to be like a negative, funny thing, that social networks are probably worse. Like most journalism sites, blogging websites are turning off comments. They're not letting people interact with their content the way that they used to. So the idea of turning off comments, but then somehow rolling an entire community around what it is that you're doing, there's such an enormous gap where we don't want some drive-by comments, but we also maybe want to have this enormous community running outside of it. That middle is just too hard to fill. So we tried for a while by having comments disabled by default. We've tried being playful and nice with some of the iconography by having it be sort of like party cons, I call them, or Ben calls them buddy cons, but you know, the birthday cake, the pinata, the balloons for groups. Like, we've tried to keep it relatively playful, and I think that that's fun in the spirit of BBPress. I don't know that if BuddyPress ends up being a true like pro product, that works, that the identity works. And when I think of a pro product, I think of a company like Automatic that has a bunch of P2s of their own, you know, internal web method of communication. But on top of that entire structure, BuddyPress lives on top of it, listening for blog posts and comments and aggregating it all into a profile. And you use the profile fields as, you know, for your passport number, for where your address lives if someone wants to ship you something. All of the cool stuff that you would need for a pro-level network of users that are working together. I think BuddyPress would benefit pretty greatly from having a purpose and having it be designed and geared towards that. There's always like the other little things that more integration into WP admin, but then at the same time everything is going to a RESTful API, and we're starting to try and think about a future without WP admin. So how late to the game is BuddyPress if we start to integrate stuff into that today? There's just so much that a social network, an entire social network needs, that is in flux if WordPress is going to abandon WP admin or everything else. So it may just work out that our accidentally pushing everything theme side in BuddyPress may have actually been like 5 years ahead of the game, or it may have been a terrible decision. It's really hard to tell. But I think I don't know. I would rather not go anywhere, right? I think the future for both projects is strong. I really enjoy working on the both of them a lot still. But
How do you hope to help BuddyPress navigate its identity crisis over the next year or so?
I've started doing that a little bit at the end of this year with really talking to folks that are actively using it for like client projects or are installing it with big installations that are trying to use it and make it work. The folks at Web Dev Studios, the folks at Voce I need to reach out to because I know they just did something really cool. To really say what are you using it for, and how do we make sure that, I don't know, the world at large understands that this is the problem that this software is the best at solving. For a while, and in the original days, and Andy and I talked about this today, the original version of BuddyPress kind of looked and felt a lot like Yammer did in like the early days. Kind of a loose profile, kind of some loose activity stream, the wire, the status update box, they were all separate. And back then I think we had a clearer vision of what BuddyPress was trying to do and solve. But compromises with single site, multi-site, compromises with theme side versus admin, like all these decisions that we made were good decisions, I think, for the better. But BuddyPress has lost its identity, I think, partially because of, I would say, lower demand of people using and wanting social networks or intranets or whatever, and partially perpetually because we haven't branded it or pivoted it to be a very clear solution to an obvious problem. So the solution is talking to more people and then making BuddyPress.org look the part, and then making sure that BuddyPress itself feels the part when you install it. I don't think it'll be a lot of work, but I do think it'll be little incremental changes that will probably make a big difference. So I think it's, I don't know, a redesign, rethink, and tweaks to make it look and feel a little bit more like the product that we want it to be, or the project. So, I guess I have products on the mind because I'm trying to think of like how most people would productize a community versus BuddyPress as a project that may have its own individual goals or things that it wants to do and solve. So I'm interested though to hear like what everyone's ideas or perception of it is. So find a way to reach out to me if you can at all, because I want to know pretty much from everyone where you think it's at or going or it should go, or pros and cons to pieces of it. And even at the same time, if there's pieces of it that anyone thinks would be valuable abstracted out, there are plenty of login and registration plugins, there are plenty of other little things, but if we can take something out and really try and emphasize what it does in a way that is a unique single plugin, to really iterate on one prime part of what BuddyPress could provide, and then loop that back in, we're free to do whatever we want to do. So get in touch.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.